Welcome to the OC Spurs podcast, where we are going to be previewing the Aston Villa game, discussing expected lineups, Matty Cash, should Romero go in two-footed after the whistle starts the game. And we'll also be diving into the controversial conversation of season ticket prices, senior discounts being taken away, the scrapped TIFO, and the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust being under fire once again. Is that fair? So let's start with what everyone cares about the most, the football. So we've got Aston Villa coming up. And it's a bit of a grudge match, isn't it? Then they're a rival in no shape or form in terms of geography, but they are a rival in terms of club size historically in certain moments. And they're certainly a rival considering how the game went with them earlier on in the season. Mm-hmm. So starting with the fundamentals of the game in terms of a lineup, though, are we going to see just a reflection on how we started against Wolves, or not Wolves? What am I talking about? Crystal Palace? Or are we going to see some changes based on how the subs impacted the game? What do you think, Si? I'll welcome you back with that question. Go on.
There we go. So I think you will see some changes. I think, I say changes. I think you might see one change. I think you might see Bentancur for Sarr, or Sarr for Bentancur. I think you might see that in there. Because I think that we're going to need that, the power of his running in the middle there. But I don't think you'll see much other change. I still think Kulusevski will start. And I think Johnson will be an impact sub like he was at Palace. And he was brilliant. He was great. Werner will definitely be out on the left because you've got no other option but to put Son up the middle. And I don't see any other changes because I don't think Porro's back, right? I don't think he's fit for this one, or he's touch and go. If Porro's fit, he's in. If he's not in, then it's Emerson. And then I think the only change that he's got there is in the middle of the park with I think Bentancur sits on the bench and Sarr comes back in. I think, and I think for me that's a good shout.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Johnny? Or do you think there'll be any other changes?
No, that's exactly what I've written down here. I thought that Porro was better than 50-50, but he's still a bit of a doubt. But yeah, that's the obvious other one. Agree. I think Werner second half against Crystal Palace, he deserves to just keep his place. I suppose because Richarlison is supposed to be fit as well, or he's available.
Is he?
I think so. So I think that's the
I think he's out till after the international break.
We said last week that he'd be back this week.
So there's a lot of misunderstanding of it because Ange said one thing, and then a lot of people are saying something else. He's been called up for the Brazilian squad, and if you see when Romero scored, Richie actually ran the length of the pitch to celebrate with everyone. So he's clearly okay.
Yeah.
Has he been called up? Has he just been called up for screening? Because they've got to screen him first. If we say he's injured, we've got to send him for screening. So he'll get called up, but he could well get sent back if their medical team agree with our diagnosis, you know.
But don't Brazil's fitness checks are a little different to ours. Ours are like an MRI and all this kind of stuff. I think Brazil's is can you kick the football?
They just knock his knee. Go, hey, everyone okay? Yeah.
Are you happy to play? You're in. Yeah, it's a bit more relaxed.
Is it the 1970s in here?
They get him to do the samba and he's in.
Jesus. Yeah, can he limbo as well? I still wouldn't, even if he's fit, which I thought he was, then I would still have Werner on the left and Sonny in the middle, to be honest. And if he can come off the bench, he can come off the bench on the left the way Johnson can come on the right.
Yeah.
And then we've still got, obviously, Bentancur and like Lo Celso and people like that who can come in and maybe make an impact as well, fresh legs. Højbjerg can come on and do what he does. Yeah. So, Dragusin,
what do we think?
I really hope we can see Dragusin at some point as well. Like,
what do we think about Kulusevski dropping into the midfield as well from the right? Do we like that?
Yeah.
Adds
another dimension to that midfield option, I think, right?
Yeah.
I think we're better when he plays in the middle.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you not?
No. But are we better because of the time of the game that he drops into the middle, and then you've got the width of Johnson. So
that's true.
Yeah, I think that might make a difference because Johnson and Werner then really stretch the game, right?
Exactly. I agree with that.
We've got a squad. We can do these things.
Even Lo Celso's back.
Yeah.
What? Oh, brilliant. And that is, we laugh a bit, but he was actually really important for us when he was going through that brief phase of being fit. So, it's really good news. Relatively self-explanatory then.
He came on last week, didn't he, Lo Celso, for a bit?
Yeah, I think he did all right.
Yeah,
he came on for the last 10 minutes or something.
He gave up possession a couple of times, but
you're not at the game, Jim.
I was at the game.
Did you leave early?
Probably about 8 pints deep. So
okay.
I didn't realise Lo Celso was on the pitch. There you go. I didn't actually realise he was on the pitch. I can't tell you what the score. I actually can't remember the last 20 minutes of the game. So there you go. That sums it up.
We've been to matches with you like that before, Jim.
I think I remember going crazy about the goals, but yeah, okay. That's why I'm leaving the answers to the questions to you. I just write the questions. So there's another thing that's a bit of a controversial one. A lot of people saying, I can't wait. Everyone's building up this Romero's got to go in on Matty Cash, and it's got to be Romero because he's kind of the team bodyguard and all that kind of stuff. Is that stupid? This is the other part of the running order today. We have got questions. So I might actually divert it. It was a question on YouTube from one of our listeners, and I'll get it up now. But essentially, should Romero... Okay, here we go. This is from Mole and Joe, 1613. I can't understand why people are clamouring for QT to take Cash out. If he did and gets a red card, they'll all be calling him stupid for letting the team down. Just play with your head, QT. We need you on the field. So that's kind of a question, but a statement. Do you agree with him?
Yeah.
Joe, what's not to agree with Joe, man? That's not fun. The difference is, do we agree with Joe or does QT agree with Joe? They're two different things. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be mental to even give away a yellow card over that. I think the best way to piss off Matty Cash is to beat him in a football game.
Yeah, that's true.
And so
I can imagine him after we thrash them, give him a lot of shit at the end of the game and wind him up.
Go 2-0 up, and the 93rd minute, bring on someone disposable and tell them to put a crunching tackle in on Matty Cash.
Drag us in.
Højbjerg, get straight through him.
Yeah.
Viking the lad, Viking him.
So we agree with you, Joe.
Yeah.
That should be your name.
That tackle on Bentancur was horrendous, and it was literally his first game back. So I think we've all got. There is a part of us that, we obviously that questioner is correct, but and the way that Romero looked at him, because he was on the sidelines, wasn't he, when that went?
Shut up his pajamas to the world.
Oh, what a treat! But yeah. But it's been a while. Like Romero's been behaving. Our Rupert's back.
My wife was saying goodbye to me there. Sorry, those watching on YouTube will have seen that I'm wearing my work attire, which is pajamas.
When you say your wife's saying goodbye, is the divorce? Is the divorce coming through?
Taking the kid.
The degree absolute's just dropped through the letterbox and she's off.
I've had 3 days in London in the hotel, and I'm off to a stag do in the morning. And so
your stock is very high. Your brownie points are right up there, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're right up there.
Yeah,
she's worryingly happy to be heading off.
She's a lucky lady. Stop crying, babe. Stop crying. You're a lucky lady.
So
it definitely is the 1970s in here. Oh my god, we're on a roll.
We're on a roll. Apologies, we've gone a bit off piece today.
No, that's never happened.
At least we're happy. Unlike, I'm not going to get into that one either.
True. No, that's true.
Yeah. So, but in terms of the Villa game, though, it's going to be a really hard fixture. They've got the European game. They've got to play. It's not Roma. They've got to play Ajax.
Right now,
they're not bad after European games, though. They haven't lost a game in the league after a European game this season.
And
this brings the topic though. And Anne just talked about this. He prefers regular fixtures for momentum and the importance of players getting time to integrate themselves into a team. So you could argue that is in a way an advantage for Villa, and it's been a bit of a disadvantage for us. Anne's been saying, and I do get that. I think we'd have benefited with a happy medium of staying in one of the domestic cups and having that extra time between games. But I think we'd have struggled with as many games as Europe brings.
But this Thursday-Sunday thing, Thursday-Sunday, people complain about that. How's that different to Wednesday-Saturday? So if you're in the Champions League and you play on a Wednesday and you play on a Saturday, what's the difference?
Or a Tuesday.
Yeah, but Champions League, you sometimes play on the Tuesday, so then you've got the longer gap.
Yeah, a little bit.
Play Tuesday. But they'll play Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday.
Do they play Sunday? No, they play a Saturday after a Wednesday. They don't always play on a Sunday.
They do sometimes, but they usually play on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And often,
It's also just as a supporter, those Sundays.
Mate, absolutely.
But yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
And I remember they did us over quite a few times when we were playing on Thursdays. When making us play the Sunday lunchtime game.
Yeah.
So,
well, Villa, that's the Sunday lunchtime game for Villa as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's tough.
Yeah.
Although at least Hull's not too far to go.
But based on all this, then, are we going in? And I'll ask you this one, Stu, because you follow the Dutch league and you've got you're quite knowledgeable on that area. Top of the league. There you go. Your team is top of the league. But do you feel we go into this game as favourites, or would you see a point as a reasonable result? Are you expecting it to be, as long as we don't lose convincingly, it's
I don't
not in the world.
think to beat Ajax will take too much out of them because Ajax are awful this year. So I really don't expect Ajax to pull up too many trees tonight. So I think Villa will probably get a couple of goals up and then be able to take off their key players. And I was looking at the league form prior to the pod, and they've won 4 of the last 6 games, Villa, and their home form is really good. They've won 10 out of 13. They've lost 2. They are a good side. Emery, since he got there, has done a really, really good job. So I honestly, I don't expect to do a walk in the park. And Watkins is on fire.
He's top now for goal involvements, isn't he? I think is he hit after the last round? He's just hit the top of that list. So
now even the media is clamoring for typical move people out of position. So play him up front and Kane drop back.
Yeah, drop Bellingham. Drop Bellingham because he's lost his head now, hasn't he?
I would say that just looking at the Villa game now, because it's at 90th minute, it's 0-0. Villa have only managed 3 shots all game.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And they had their right back just sent off in the 83rd minute. So there's some, I think there's some good signs there if they're not playing well in that fixture.
Yeah.
So
ideally they'll get through, but it'll go to penalties because we want them to still have to play in Europe to be impact their league form going forward.
And we also want them to play in Europe to do the coefficient as well. We want as many English teams to do quite well at the moment because it'd be ironic if Arsenal getting knocked out early cost us 5th on the coefficient, wouldn't it? No. Sorry, Stu. Go on.
I was going to say, I think historically we've always done quite well against Villa. The famous Harry Kane free kick.
One and only. I am the one and only.
I'm actually I'll go early with my prediction. I'm actually predicting a 2-2 draw because I think it'll be a tough game.
Okay. Do you agree, Johnny? Would you go for a draw? Would you think something better?
I was thinking 2-2 as well, but I mean, looking at the side that's out tonight, it's like pretty much their strongest 11. And they haven't had the luxury of taking players off and resting them. So I appreciate the fact it's Amsterdam's not exactly a long haul flight, but it is still a lot less rest and a lot less time to get prepared for ourselves as an opponent. So I think that I'm going to be. I usually do predict fairly optimistically. I would say that if anyone's going to win, I fancy us more than them, to be honest with you. And I just think that after the way that the game is going to be more open and end-to-end, you'd expect, compared to those games that we've had over the last couple of weeks at home against teams digging in, it's probably going to suit us. If we can move the ball quickly in the break, we got our strongest 11 coming back, getting a bit more into form. I'm going to be quite optimistic about this. If I'm going to change it to 3-2, seeing as Stu's gone with my 2-2, I'm going to go to 3-2 to Spurs. And you're right about our record, and we do owe them one after the previous game in November. So that was not that Spurs were the better team in that game significantly. Yeah. And I think that they've got a threat from set piece for sure. Watkins is really clinical at the moment. Had quite a few chances where he went really close as well. Could have scored more, but they're a very good side. But I think we're probably a little bit better. That's what I believe. I think obviously we've been afflicted all year with the injuries and suspensions and trips of players abroad, but they've not had the same impact. So, but hats off to Emery. He's done a really good job with them.
The only thing that does fill me with a bit more hope is that the XG against has been in the media quite a lot recently, but since Romero and Van de Ven are back together, that's actually almost back to the same XG against as in the first 10 games.
Right.
So we seem to be getting defensively more back on track.
Yeah, and Slick Vic's doing the business, isn't he?
He's the man.
And he's Stu. Did you know about Vicario before this season?
I might have mentioned once or twice.
You haven't mentioned this. So, Si, are you optimistic then?
Yeah, I am. I think it's going to be a really close game now. I think it's going to be one of those basketball games. It's end to end. I think it'll be won and lost in that middle of the park where the if it is Bissouma, and Maddison are going to be key. And actually, listening to the chaps chat now, I might think that maybe Johnson starts for the three pacey ones up front, because then that puts them on the back foot in all areas of their back four. So there's a chance that could happen, I guess. I reckon it's going to be a really close affair. I think it'll be won by the odd goal. I wouldn't be surprised if we lost it by the odd goal, but I think we'll win it 2-1.
Okay, I like it. And I'm looking at this as well, looking at our away form as a team. And when you look at the start of the season in particular, when you look at our away games, we beat Bournemouth, then we went to Burnley and won. Then we had arguably our best away performance of the season in a way was probably against Arsenal, that 2-2 draw where we just kept coming back, considering the calibre of team they are this season. And then we beat Luton away. That was a poor performance. Yeah. We won. We beat Palace away. Then everything imploded at home to Chelsea. And then we lost to Wolves away. And that's when it's hard to compare the away fixtures then because the squad was so depleted. But when we were fit, I felt like we had the size of the squad, and we probably, as a squad, got a better squad than Villa. It's the first team where you'd say first team is very similar, but squad ours is probably slightly better than theirs. Like players we've rejected or got rid of are their squad players now that we've upgraded on. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs win, and Villa fans kicking off about some injustice of the game that really wasn't an injustice at all. I think
their style of play will allow us to play like we did second half against Palace from the get-go. Because everyone's going on about how bad that... You read it, the first half was awful. Listen, you can only do so much when there's 11 players behind the ball, right? And they're just sitting there, the width of the box, low block, defending all the time. It's any team has problems breaking that down. Liverpool nicked a win against Forest, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? It's not like every team has problems with those types of teams. I just hope that we're at it from the whistle and we get at them from the first minute, and we can cause them a lot of problems if we do that.
Agree. So we're all good on the conclusion it's going to be a draw or a win for Spurs.
Have we ever predicted a loss for Spurs? Any
3 goals.
Even when negative Nelly was on board and pessimistic Beatty was
the City game.
I would predict a loss twice a season.
City.
And that would be Man City away and Liverpool away. I'd say there's only 2. But City, because of the way things gone, I'd normally actually go maybe a draw. But Liverpool, I'm never confident going to Anfield. No. Never. And Chelsea, I would
Chelsea away. Yeah.
They could be in League 2.
Yeah.
And we could be
playing the Chelsea pensioners and we'd be in trouble.
We're going to lose that away game. Yeah. We're cursed. 16 years without a win at home at one point against them. And something like 30 years
I was there at that game when Lineker got the winner back in, 91, 2?
Yeah. 91. Yeah. He's the Leicester City supporter, isn't he?
He's Chris Man.
We should go on to, it is an important topic to cover, the season ticket price rises. Now, this is, we just want to start, we don't like to do politics on the podcast, and we don't want to make this all about, should billionaires running clubs be doing ticket price, all that kind of stuff, but we do want to talk about it a little bit, because it is an important topic. And it was so we looked back, and over the last 5 years, we've had a 1% rise, followed by, was it pretty much 3 seasons of freezing prices, or was it 2? followed by the 6% rise. So over 4 years, you're looking at about 7%. So you're looking at an average of roughly 1.2, 1.3% a year price rises on the tickets. You should never support a price rise, because if you roll over and go, that's fine to the club, and the trust go, no worries, they're going to do it by 10% instead of 6%. So you should always stand up for yourselves. And understandable, every fan's going to have a different perspective. If you've been sitting in the Paxton End for 30 years and you go home and away and you haven't seen Tottenham win a trophy in 20 odd years, you are right to be completely outraged. I get it. But from your average fan going to the ground, we're going to give that perspective now. So I'll start with you, Si.
Mate.
What's your thoughts on
that hospital ball? Bang. So I'm only going to talk from a personal level, because I can't tell other people what to feel or think. Right, so whatever anybody feels or thinks about that 6%, it's entirely up to them, and I'm not in their situation, they're not in my situation, so I can't really have a view other than what I feel personally. I just look around everything that I buy at the moment, and things are going up ridiculously. And is there an argument from my perspective to say, the running costs of the ground have gone up significantly? Well, the utility charges will have gone up, the supply charges will have gone up, everything will have gone up, and the club swallowed that for a few years. Am I okay with the 6%? I'm not over the moon with it, but I'm also not gonna, jump off a cliff over it either. I mean, I've got to say, I'm lucky that 6% is probably, I don't know what it was on my ticket. It's probably about 100 quid, I think, probably. I'm in the East Upper. I think it was 40.
Just under, I think.
It was 1,400, so it's probably just over 100 quid for the season ticket. I've got to admit, in that scale of things, it's not something that I've really given a lot of thought about, if I'm honest. And if it would have just been the price on the renewal, and I hadn't seen all the posts about the 6% increase with the discount that I got for the couple of times I put it back on the exchange, I'm not sure I've noticed any difference. But I'm not saying that nobody else should have an issue with it. I'm just saying that's my perspective, my point of view, and it is what it is. Do you get fleeced more to go to other events that don't give me as much passion? Absolutely. You go to the theatre, you get done. You go to, I take the kids to the cinema these days. I need to go and get a Wonga loan. Do you know what I mean? It's unfortunately, that's a little bit of life right now. So for me, disappointing, but not the end of the world type scenario. But I fully understand why other people might feel aggrieved by it and might be up in arms over it, and that's fine. I'm not criticising any of those guys. By the same extent, I'm not criticising the guys that go, 6%, whatever, I can afford it, and giving it all the Billy Big Spuds. It's just for me, okay, it's not ideal, but what are you going to do? I'm not going to renew my season ticket.
And like you said, everyone's going to have a different view, but it's important to highlight you. Like, Si is a season ticket holder, and that's his view from his circumstance. And Stu's gone to plenty of Spurs games, lived in the UK, but currently you're not able to be a season ticket holder because of, you're living 6 or 7 hour flight away from the UK, so it's just not a feasible thing. But from your seat, how are you feeling about it, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's easier for me to look at it from a distance and just look at it from the maths, because obviously it doesn't impact me. But I do think, as Si said, and you said, it's only 1.2% over the last 5 years, and everything per year, and everything you do in life. Like if I go to McDonald's, it costs me 10% more than it did a year ago. If I buy a pint of milk, it costs more than it did a year ago. Everything has gone up. We can't expect that the club lives in this separate world where they have to absorb all the costs, especially when, we're saying as a club, we want us to spend more. You need to do this, you need to do that. They've lost money for the last 3 years, but we're not expecting them to increase costs. It just doesn't add up. It's just not the real world, the way I look at it. And as I said, in other activities, life has gone expensive. I've just went to Phantom of the Opera last weekend with my son. That costs as much as it does to go to watch Spurs. I took my wife to watch Ed Sheeran. That cost a lot more than it did to watch Spurs. I mean, that's just life for live entertainment.
But Ed Sheeran can't break your heart. But
broke my ears.
Johnny, I'm gonna have to. have to speed. And there's a second question coming around, but I'm going to give Johnny a 2-part question here because he has to jump in 5. So as he's leaving a little bit early, Johnny, there's this. I want to get your view because Johnny's for context him, he's a season ticket holder and he does travel from Ireland for games. So he's obviously got every game like side the additional cost of a flight, and then a train, and then this to factor into his opinion of this. But also, Johnny, 2-part question for you. The senior, because we next question for the guys, the senior ticket discounts are going to be losing their. And as you're the closest to getting a season, you were due yours.
Sorry, can you speak?
Would you like a cup of tea? Johnny, want a cup of tea?
Johnny was.
Oh,
Put your teeth back in.
Johnny was due his senior citizen ticket next year, and he is obviously missed out on that. So 2-part question, Johnny. Where's your head at with all this?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I guess the only I agree with everything that all of you have said, and I share your magnanimous and correct outlook on the fact that it's an individual thing, and we all, so that caveat has been established, and I totally subscribe to the same opinion. I guess the reality is, as well as the fact that things have gone up in price. Last year was my first year as season ticket holder, so I'm not there like the decades that lots of other people have been. But I mean, I've been a fan for decades and decades, and it's one of my lifelong ambitions has been realised to be a Spurs season ticket holder and get over to the games. And this year, it's been, I mean, as well as actually going there and sharing an experience with you guys, which is fantastic. Obviously, the football in itself is so much more enjoyable to consume or to be a part of. So I think the reality is as well, like last season, I only missed, I think, 2 league games and obviously put the tickets on the exchange. One was the United game because of it was like in the midweek and couldn't get over. And the other one was Brighton, and I was away in Scotland visiting family. And I wasn't able to sell Brighton, and I put them up on the exchange at least a good 2-3 weeks before, and I didn't sell them. And there was 2 seats together, which would be fairly coveted, and that is not going to be an issue. I can't go to Nottingham Forest in 3 or 4 weeks' time because it's a Monday night, and there's just no way. I realised that the City match, due to their likely qualification for the semi-final of the FA Cup, is probably going to get moved to the midweek if they win that game. So I can't go to work and say, "Oh, can I have this Monday to go?"
Can the kids not just teach themselves for a day?
Can I go? Well, could try ChatGPT is probably better than I am anyway. But don't. Yeah, I didn't say that on camera. But yeah. So I put the tickets on last night. I put the tickets on sale about 10:30 last night for a Forest in the exchange. And this morning when I woke up, there was an email from 5:00 in the morning saying that they'd been sold. So that's the reality we're at. So, and we all know, like we're seeing on the WhatsApp about the number of people who are One Hotspur members, and they're doing that bloody thing loading on the Mondays and Tuesdays when the games go on sale, and they're 20,000 in the queue and all of that kind of thing. So I mean, the reality is that the club could probably put the prices up a hell of a lot more than they have, and they probably still fill the seats. Now, at some point, if we get the kind of football we had last year again, maybe it'll be a struggle to fill the stadium. But that's not where we're at the moment. And clearly, the club shouldn't be mercenary about things. At the end of the day, the club is all about the supporters because we're the ones that are there. The players move on and blah, blah, blah. In terms of the seniors, I suppose, like, apart from my own situation and my own regret at missing out at the at the reduction that I was, counting on, I do sympathise clearly, like, because I mean, we were saying before, we were talking about like the reality of disposable income in particular demographics of society, that you've got clearly this is a broad pattern and rather than an individual thing, but there are a lot of people who are senior who do have a lot of disposable income. Now, that doesn't mean I am advocating that senior prices should be phased out at all, because I don't agree with that. And I do think there are clearly, it's like people who send their kids to private schools, some of them are working their asses off and they've got normal jobs and they take debts and everything to have that, and everyone thinks, oh, he's going to a posh school, they must be lauded. And that's just not the truth. Do you know? So there's all sorts of, we can't get in and start judging people. And I do think that there's something kind of a little bit there's a morality question there that I think is valid about seniors being charged, not being available to take advantage of the prices that have been there before. I mean, and the other thing that's not really been spoken about much, but I always thought was a strange one, is the family ticket situation. And just thinking about, like, my boys are now adults, so they wouldn't be getting kids' prices anymore. But over the years when we were going and they were kids, there were so few places in the ground where you can get a kid's price. And the reality is that, I mean, you'll pay. I sold one tickets to Wigs for the Luton game, because I'm at Stag weekend that weekend, and he's taking his nephew there, and his nephew's sitting in a seat that costs 80 quid to see Luton, because that's what you have to do, you know.
Yeah.
But like, it isn't right. It really isn't right. Like, and those are the fans of the future and all, you know. Like, so I do think that with the club, I don't know, there needs to be some kind of strategy, and there needs to be some kind of communication, and I just sort of think that both the seniors and the kids, they do need to be somehow included and properly. I don't know. I think phasing that is dangerous, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just economics at the end of the day. I'm not an economist, but obviously it is what it is, and I can understand why people are upset about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And like you said, I think following on from that, like my uncle, who's taken me for, since I was old enough to go to football games, I look at him and I think, yeah, he deserves like a disc, not for his age, but for going to Tottenham consistently for
100%.
40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's
Loyalty.
almost it should be more. I look at it's more like
A
you're
loyalty,
losing
yes.
a loyalty discount.
Good
It
point.
shouldn't be an age thing. It should be a loyalty thing, because,
Yes.
like you've said, on the age front, I think these traditional policies, they were there when your average person over 60 was retired, living off a pretty mediocre pension. And there's a reason why they get a free bus pass, and you're helping subsidise that community of people who can't go out and get work again to get back up to go to Spurs.
Yeah.
But now when you look at the fit, and I did some research on it to see this, like where they sit now. So over 60s are 900% wealthier on average than someone in their 30s in the United Kingdom. 900%. So when you look at an average over 60 and the average person going to Spurs, the ones I sit with, they have multiple tickets. They've been going for years, and they keep the subsidised prices because they keep them in the family and keep bringing their other relatives along under that concession, which is nice for them. But it's also a bit harsh on a 18-year-old who's desperate to start coming to Tottenham and to be told you're paying full whack. So, but the problem is the club didn't go, we're going to move this concession and we're going to give it to someone else more in need. They just went, I'm keeping it all. And that's where it was
I like the idea of the loyalty thing,
that
almost like when you're at work, if you've been there 5 years, you get an extra day's holiday. So maybe if you've been a season ticket holder for 5 years, you get a 2% discount on your. If you've been 10 years, you get a 5% discount. If you've been 15, etc., etc. You know that would work. That's a much fairer way of doing it, and you also subsidise you subsidise the older generation, but it's a loyalty thing rather than an age thing. So you could be 35 and getting the full amount of discount because you've had a season ticket since you was a kid.
I don't know what we do for people with disabilities, but I don't know there's discount, but there's not there. This is where you expect someone who's got to have the cost of the burden of having a disability, the cost of all the extra things that go on in your life and the impact it has on your job and ability to earn income. That's where you want to see this money as well really going to. I don't know, maybe we do offer concessions there, but I imagine like all sports clubs and like concert halls, there's never near we think it's hard for us to get a ticket. They are way outweighed to get a seat because they cost more space, and the clubs think, oh well, they're not very profitable, so I'm not going to put many people with that in that bucket of people into the ground, which is harsh. So, we've probably covered that enough. But I think we'll just finish by saying, look, we get it, especially if we've categorised you as an over 60 who needed that concession, and you're being really badly treated here. We're not including on that. You should be protected as well.
All of this is a personal opinion.
Yeah.
We're not pushing our opinions on any groups of people or a broader brush. We're just sort of talking from our own personal perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've only got
Jim,
one over 60 on Johnny.
900%. Is that like disposable income or something? Like what's that figure?
To be fair, that's a misleading stat. That's not cash in the bank. That is because what they've done there. The majority of that money, when I was reading the report, was because of the way the housing markets have changed by age demographics. That demographic of people are worth a lot more because their houses on average are bigger,
income.
no mortgages.
Right.
Yeah, their net worth. So they might be asset rich and cash poor.
Okay.
So it's misleading. So we have a few questions as well. So Chang, he's coming on the pod soon, by the way. I keep meaning to give you a date to come on. I know we've been chatting about it, but he said, under what circumstances will Dragusin ever get a start this season, if at all? Assuming both Romero and Van der Ven stay fit, do you think he'll get a game?
Yeah, as soon as Romero goes straight through Matty Cash. He's got 3 games right there.
There you go, Chang. He's starting the next 3 games after this. So, but on a serious note, I don't see us rotating him in. There's too much to lose.
No, exactly. It's not a charity.
And I'm not sure that he would have been brought in to say you're going to get a lot of game time this season. I think that's one for the future. He might get some game time at left back. He might come on for a Dogi every so often. He can play left back.
I think he might get a run out the last 2 games of the season when we play the 2 sides that will already be relegated.
I think he also, the chances are we're going to get some form of European football next season. I think that's almost nailed on, right? I mean, I can't see Man United catching us, so I think Europa League or Champions League is where we're going to land. And I think he's a perfect squad player for those European Cup games, etc. Those that's where the rotation comes in next season, I think.
Yeah. I can see him coming on if we're 3-0 up, 20 minutes to go, protecting Van der Ven's hamstrings, bring on Dragusin, give him some time. But as you said, it's not a charity.
And because obviously he's been questioned about that in press conferences, and he's answered saying that he wasn't promised game time. He knew what he was joining. He was joining a top club, and he knew who was at the club. So,
and Ange just said that all the way through. He said it was Dane Scarlett as well. Oh, with Richarlison out, is this Dane's opportunity to get in the team? He said he's got an opportunity every game. He trains with the first team every week. All of them have got opportunities. All of them have got opportunities to show me what they can do in training and break into the first team.
And as soon as one gets injured, if the replacement does better than them, we look at like Romero and go, undroppable, amazing centre-back. We signed Dragusin as a player thinking, no, he has the right, if he plays at the same level as Romero does, he should keep a spot. So, and the next player's got to come in and fight for that spot. So, Richard Poole, Top Div on Twitter. It's his handle name.
There he is.
Very random question, but have you noticed some of our players, especially you, Doggy, seem to slip over a lot on the pitch? Usually on the first half.
Right, next question.
Yeah. I'm sober in the first half of the game, so I actually do remember that.
Jim's
but no, you're right. It might... but well played. There is something that... all these players wear the same boots, so you wouldn't say it's that across multiple teams. Maybe it's...
We do water a lot.
Home games
we water a lot
than away games.
I don't know, but definitely I'd noticed that against Palace. He went over 2 or 3 times, and specifically that side.
Yeah.
Well spotted, Div.
Yeah. So well picked up. And David, there is a question about earlier because I'd already read out the YouTube questions first, and they'd already kind of been asked. But it was, do you think QT should keep his cool versus Villa, or satisfy the stocks and rotten fruits brigade and injure Matty Cash?
That's nice. Yeah,
I do.
I think we said I don't want to get on the thing of like I don't want to injure Matty Cash. I just want to see him a bit shaken up with
Do we not?
Okay, like I want him to break his big toe. It's not going to end his career. He's going to have to miss several games, and it's going to be inconveniently uncomfortable. Okay, just leave it at that. Yeah. And the other thing was not Romero. We want someone else to do it. That's what Højbjerg's best use case is right now.
Agent Skip, get out and do your job.
Bring Ollie. Skippy would do it for the club. So that's all the questions. I would say as well, just remember we don't do Patreon or anything like that. like we're not charging anyone anything
for this nonsense.
But for this nonsense, partly because it's not work, it would actually be
what a steal.
We do offer
to charge people for 4 blokes talking on concessions. But do subscribe, please, because that's how we actually get some money from YouTube for having subscribers. And if you listen on the audio, if you could at the end of the episode get option to give us a 5-star, please do that as well, because that also gives us like better money from ads and stuff, because more people listen to it. We don't have to charge you anything at all. So that's good.
Actually,
and what we'll do,
Jim,
gone.
Sorry, I'm just going to hop in there. I don't know, like there was a peak in subscribers from Dublin about 2 months ago when one of the kids in my class finally located which podcast their teacher was on. And so today in school, it was World Book Day today. So the kids of P6A in St Andrews College, who are a brilliant class, I was wearing my Oso Spurs hoodie, and like so many kids came up and said, where can we get the merch, Mr. Adair? Like, and they're genuinely, there's probably about 25 to 30 kids, maybe more, who would be queuing up for all sorts. Right,
so what I'm going to do then?
I'm just saying it.
I'll create the website over the. I'm at Stag Do this weekend. I'll try to do it in the airport lounge before I'm flying over.
Good man.
I'll probably this time next week it should hopefully be there. But what we'll do is anyone who's subscribed currently, that's what we'll do. I will make it so we sell them all at cost to those people. So for like the first week, I'll just make it so I'll give you a discount code if you subscribe. I'll put it as like comments, so you can just have exactly what I paid for it. You'll get it for. And then the deliveries to do it cheaper though, it will be like a couple of weeks delivery. Just heads up to do it that way, but it will be the cheapest way of doing it, and we'll bring out the.
And can I just have one? Can I give a big shout out to Sam if he's listening? Sam is a kid that was in the swimming pool. Tottenham mad in Barbados. I was talking to his dad, Simon. So we got chatting, and he said his boy is absolutely Tottenham mad. And I said to Sam, if you subscribe,
good on you, Sam.
I said I'll give you a shout out on the pod. So he sent me a message on Instagram as soon as he got home saying I've subscribed. So I said I'll give you a shout out on the pod. So Sam, if you're watching, big shout out to you. Come on, you Spurs.
Nice.
Come on, you Spurs.
Fair play to Sam.
And I think we're actually about time on that now. For all the come on, you Spurs.
You Spurs.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on, you Spurs.
Yeah, you Spurs.